Hello, hello, hello. This is Anna, and this is just a little video of my house for some dear friends who haven't been here. There it is. It looks kind of big, but it's not. The upper part is a cabin, or was a cabin, and it's pretty small. And then on the right at the bottom you see some double doors. That's a garage. Garage doors. Not exactly a garage, it's more like a shop and a place for friends to stay. So it's actually almost as big as the house. And there's a beautiful juniper tree. And now we're going to walk up the steps, which I just put in last year. And have a look at the yard. What you're looking at here is the upper garden. That's what I call the upper garden. And it is put to bed right now, which means last year I topped it with straw and manure and some other good things, and then I've got it covered with black plastic so that that soil will have a chance to get really rich. And then I'll plant it when I have time in a few years. And the road goes along there. I've got a new woodshed last year, which needs reorganization. Well, the shed doesn't, but the wood does. And those trees, do they look a little funny? I topped them, or I had a friend top them, because they were impeding with my solar exposure. I've got a little pear tree here. I don't know if you can see it. Behind that is a bunch of wood under a tarp. And that beautiful juniper tree again. And there's one of my sheds. And the trees on the left are going to stay, but the trees on the right that I'm centering right now, two beautiful pine trees, they're going to get cut down. They are in the way of building a fence that I'm going to be doing this year, a perimeter fence, and they also shade the garden tremendously, and the solar in the wintertime. So there are quite a few trees around here. I've got another, which doesn't excuse cutting 2 trees down, but I'm a farmer now. And there's one of my solar panels, the first one the second one I put in actually, the first one I sold. And there I have another little wood shed. You never have enough sheds in this existence of homesteading. And as you can see, I've got some neighbors in the background. That are usually not here in the wintertime. And now I'm on my deck. I used to have an outdoor bathtub right there where those buckets are, and I will have one again. Had some plumbing issues this year. And now I'll just take a panorama of the property. You see there's a plum tree that I'm centering on right now that got decimated by the bear last year. There's an elderberry tree to the left of it and an apple tree, not in blossom yet, behind it. And then this is what the plum tree used to look like. There used to be 4 of them. I cut down one for my root cellar. And behind there, you'll see all that land there. And then all the trees edging the creek. That's all the property that's all my property. You can't see them, but I got a bunch of walnut trees and what will be almond trees all around over there, all around the edge of the creek. I've got 200 feet of creek frontage, and you can probably hear it and see a little of it. The creek's at high water right now, and it's rushing, and quite brown actually. Good thing I've got filters for the household water. And here you're looking at my neighbor's property. This is Carl and his wife Gayleen, and they aren't here very often. A few weeks a year, 2 to 4 weeks a year at the most. They're from Edmonton area, Red Deer, and that's a beautiful, I'm not sure what kind of tree that little one is. The big one's an apricot in blossom right now. And across the creek there's a beautiful apple tree that looks white. It's in blossom right now. And there's the creek. And I will finish the panorama when the sun's not right coming into the lens. And here's for a last look at the orchard, the plum tree, pear tree, and other fruit trees. The creek, just walking on my deck here. Kale hasn't come up yet in the garden boxes, but it will. And there's the road. My driveway is here. And there's my neighbors over there. They're here about 5 months of the year. And there's the road. Goes down to the public beach, just right there, where I go swimming. And yeah, still a little bit of snow on the mountain peaks. I've heard there's a lot of snow up there, and that the runoff, which is as high as I've ever seen it, will continue for another 2 or 3 weeks. Not peaked yet, perhaps. So that's just a little tour of my house and the area. Blessings, blessings, blessings. I did forget to show this one bedding box I did make, that it's got spinach in it right now, and this is May 7th. So the spinach I planted last year, and those big ones that are there came up this spring. And I've got another box right here that I built last year, and it's got electrical cable in the bottom of it, so eventually I'll be able to have warm soil for the beds in March, when we start getting a lot of sun here, so I'll have the solar to support it. But I didn't get the electrical done yet, so it will happen this year, I hope. And then right here I'm just killing off some quack grass in order to make a propagation bed, because I want to start propagating my own plants. Just a lot more fun. And down there you're looking at the 2 vents, the 2 white vents for the root cellar. I'll show you more of that later. So I'm just walking down to the orchard, and you'll see there's the 2 vents, the white things sticking up that I mentioned. And this is the root cellar with the plastic all over it. It's not finished, and it's not made pretty. It is finished, but it's not made pretty, and it doesn't have doors on it yet, and it doesn't have the stucco on the outside. And I've already contracted a fellow to build a retaining wall with really beautiful rock all along the side of the root cellar, just to shore up all the earth and make sure it's really well insulated. And yeah, there's the plum trees again, and now you can see the fence. This is the orchard, I call it. We've got a whole bunch of fruit trees and nut trees, hazelnut trees in there. I'll show you in more detail. And then there's the house of my neighbor Ken and Dara, who are here about 9 months of the year. They don't spend the winter here. And I don't know if you can see them, but this is about my property line, just about 8 feet or so left of that wood pile is my property line. orchard here. I put in this electric fence several years ago, and it works really well. And I've got an old pear tree, one of the other old trees that are originally on this property. And then I've planted a bunch of trees. This is a nectarine. These ones are planted, several of them I planted 1 year ago. There's a peach, some rhubarb that I rescued, doing much better than it used to, right there. And this stick is a plum tree that I just put in this year. It'll be interesting to see what this orchard looks like in 3 years. And you probably can't see it, but in there I've got the tiniest little apricot tree that I started from seed last year in very poor soil, so it didn't do very well. But I do love it, so I'm going to see what happens with it. And if you didn't know, all the seed fruits, the plums, the apricots, almonds, peaches, pit fruits I guess they're called, they can all be grafted interchangeably. So this little peach tree will likely become an almond tree. My neighbors Frank and Libby have an almond tree which after 10 years of waiting finally produced a bumper crop last year. And there's a new apple tree that I got this year too. An area of black plastic I just don't want to be growing. And there's another little experimental apricot tree that is dead. I'm going to have to replace it with something. Here's a new apple, just starting to bud out. So, oh, sorry, that's the pear. Haha. I have to keep my memory going. This is the apple, little Fuji apple, that's just starting to bud out. This is an older apple that I think one of the previous owners planted maybe 15 or 20 years ago, and it produces every other year nice apples, not keepers like the Fuji's will be. I don't know if you can see it, but this is a apricot that I bought. All these ones that I planted a year ago I bought and planted. There's another apricot, a different kind. All along this row I've got 5 hazelnut trees growing. Just little ones. They'll get big. And there's another peach tree. Here's an older plum tree that looks really funny because it got girded by mice and was not taken care of. I actually planted 9 fruit trees here in 2008, and then I went away and they didn't make it. So that was a tragedy. They would have been nice and big right now. The mice girded them. This one was the only one that survived even a little bit. So it's like a rescue tree that I'm working on. And oh look, first time I've seen this. My new cherry tree. It's got some blossoms. Wow. Little white blossoms. And you'll notice I've got cardboard around the bottoms of all these trees. Just this grass is called quack grass, most of it. And it is really, really voracious. And so I've got the cardboard around the trees to facilitate their nourishment. This is another cherry. And they're both Rainier cherries. I don't know why one's budding out and one's blossoming, the other's not yet. You just don't know how many roots get damaged when you do a transplant. And right here, I've just put in this year a little propagation bed, and this time I really took a lot of care to cover it to make good soil, and then to cover it. There's little holes in that black garden cloth And the seeds, there's about 15 little peach and apricot pits from peaches and apricots that I ate last year. Kept in the fridge over the winter. Should have planted it in the fall, so they need to be cold for about 2 months. But I kept them in the fridge, and we'll see what happens. And the peaches and apricots here are from my neighbors. I think most of them from my neighbors, Frank and Libby, who are connoisseurs of fruit tree growing and grafting. Oh, and there's a big burn pile. I had a burn the other day. There's going to be a lot more burning this year as I clear all along the creek there. I'm going to take out the brush and leave the nice beautiful trees, and then I'll be able to plant more things that I want to be in there and make the creek frontage more usable. And here's a quick shot of the creek. I've never seen it running this high before, and my neighbor told me yesterday that it's going to get higher, which is a little scary. Now I'm standing almost at the corner of my property beside the creek. You can see the beautiful mountains in the distance. It's a gorgeous day today. My little house, and then the blue garage storage shed of my neighbor Carl and Gayleen, his wife. The perimeter fence that I'm going to make this year has to go all along this bank, and I don't know how to do that exactly. I'm going to have someone come and help me clear the bank so I can actually see where to put the fence posts. So the deer and the elk and the bear are going to be barricaded from this property, and the alpacas and dogs and kittens and puppies and chickens are going to be well protected inside the property. And here's another shot of the creek. About 5 years ago, 2 huge trees fell down. As you can see, their root structures totally changed the flow of the creek. And I've got a bit of a log jam happening right there, which is new this year. So somehow later in the summer when the water's lower, I'll have to get someone or find someone with a chainsaw or something and get that area cleared. Apparently there are other potential log jams up the creek that are going to be cleared also. And this is all my property you're looking at, this side of the creek. It's really, really great to have creek frontage, 200 feet of it. Better than lake frontage because the lake goes up and down. It's a reservoir, and people get very upset with that. I did used to own the property across the creek, and I subdivided and sold it off, which is several years ago, 2007. And so that's what's enabled me to be here financially quite a bit of the time. I do regret selling it off, though. It's a beautiful piece. It was a little bigger. Mine's 1.6 acres, and it was 2.3 acres. Now I'm at the back corner of my property. There's the little house. There's one of my solar electric arrays, an outhouse, and the apple tree. There's my second solar array, and I did only use the generator last year for 31.5 hours for the whole winter, which was awesome. We had good sun and the solar panels did the job. There's my shed Here's my garden. But this is my upper garden, covered in black plastic. There is a row there of blackberries, and they will fruit. They have for years put out beautiful thornless blackberries. For over a month they produce. And then I do have still, I left one grape plant in position here. There used to be 3, and they're just nice to have. I have another shed right by the road over there. And there's these 2 trees. Nice and big pines that will come down. And just taking a quick look into the basement room. This is a room that I built in conjunction with a carpenter fellow that lives nearby several years ago, and I finished it last year with Denis. It serves as my shop area. A miter saw, workbench, and this is also a nice little wood stove, and this is also the place where guests can sleep. And then in here, not that interesting, but I've got a bunch of tools, a little tool room, and a crawl space up there with a bunch of stuff in it. And similarly in here, a place of storage and my electrical equipment for the solar system. And that's it. Nice and bright down here, cool in the summer. And nice place for working in the winter too, once the wood stove's on. And now I'm on my front porch. Got a nice couple of lazy boy chairs there and a few other chairs that are very comfortable. And I'll just take you inside for a moment. This is the front area, the living room, wood stove, and then kitchen all open. There. Yeah. It's very bright, very light. There. And still a little messy. I got all my canned goods here because the root cellar's not ready yet. The door is the outside with some steps going down. And here a little sink vanity area. And a toilet and shower in here. And a bedroom. There's a couple windows I had put in just over, well, a year and a half ago now. There. And then out the back door, a solar panel, another woodshed. And I just put in these stairs too last year, a year and a half ago, before I couldn't get down to the ground from here. So thank you for watching. Blessings.